Nintendo 64. For N64. The games of Nintendo 64.
The Nintendo 64 was the first console I ever had. I think what happened was that a work friend of my dad was cleaning out his house and decided he didn't need it anymore. He asked my dad if we wanted it and, well, he said yes. He gave us the console, all the necessities, including a controller where the analog stick was kinda half broken, and 2 games, Mario 64 and Glover. This was my introduction to the world of video games. I was pretty excited. I hadn't played games before, but I had seen ads on TV, so I knew what I was getting into. I was ready to be playing what everyone else was playing. Kinda. Yeah, here's the thing. I got my Nintendo 64 in 2006. I was very confused because the graphics I saw on TV were very different from what I had. I didn't mind. As a kid, I kinda didn't care as long as I had my own games to play, but I did find it weird and off-putting at first. My family wasn't really in a financially stable position when I had the N64, so I only really ever got to play 7 games. At least 7 games that I can remember. And I only really played it for like a year and a half to 2 years before I finally upgraded to the next big system. But despite that, I still have a very special place in my heart for the Nintendo 64. It was my first game, so I thought I'd make this video just to talk about every game that I've ever owned and played. And since there's only 7 games, I thought that'd be pretty easy. So let's begin, starting with Mario 64.
It's me, Mario! Hello!
Hello! I mean, considering my options were Mario 64 and, with all due respect, Glover, you can imagine that a majority of my time when I first got my Nintendo 64 was on, well, Mario 64. And like most people, I liked it. Jumping around and playing with the controls was satisfying. I was young though, 5 years old to be exact, and I didn't actually finish the game back then. I kept getting stuck at different points of the game, and I kept getting distracted by other things like playing outside with my friends, or playing on the carpet with my little green toy soldiers pretending a Pokemon battle between Ash and Lieutenant Surge was going on. Mario 64 just didn't grab me at the time. It didn't help that I was just really bad at games. I'm still bad, but I was garbage back then. When I first got my Nintendo DS, I got it with Mario Kart, and I'm telling you, it took way too long, even on 50cc, for me to get first place for the first time. It was pretty bad. You have no idea how lost I was at this fucking Bob-omb with the crown. Why he didn't die when you threw him off the ledge, and he does die when you fucking throw him on the floor is beyond me. To this day, I'm still so annoyed. I eventually beat him, but by accident and out of frustration.
Here we go!
The other levels on this first floor of the castle didn't really give me too much trouble, apart from maybe the first Bowser fight. It was once we got to the basement that I started to encounter some issues. Some really concerning ones at that. I swear to God that this section was like Dark Souls for a 5-year-old. At least for me it was. I got hella lost in the spider maze, I kept falling into quicksand, the ghost house was too scary for me to do anything in there, and for some reason I was too scared to jump into the picture of the lava level, and it turns out it was the easiest one. At least for me it was. I think the level layout was just simpler, which made it easier for me to navigate through the level, and I thought jumping in the volcano was so fucking cool. I kept going in even after having already collected both stars. I repeated those levels so much. The water level though, the one in the basement, I think it was called Dire Docks, was incredibly frustrating. I remember not being able to do the 8 red coin there for some reason. I kept falling off these stupid like Wreck-It Ralph looking things. Beams. I'm stupid. By the time I finished the basement level after a Bowser level that once again kicked my ass, I was looking like this.
I didn't hear no bell.
Every time I would get frustrated with a level, I think I'd just go back to one of the previous levels that were, easier. Bob-omb Battlefield, Dwom's Fortress. I had fun getting the owl and like flying through the sky and getting the star. I had fun with the stupid cannon. I don't remember how I figured that out, I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, I would play these levels over and over again whenever I would get frustrated. So once I unlocked that second floor, I think my interest was starting to fade. I wasn't playing as often. I would get on and try some levels, but other than maybe Tiny Huge Island, I don't think any of the new levels like actually appealed to me, at least not as a kid. Once again, I found myself hating the water world. Wet Dry World was not it, at least for me. The ice level, I forgot its name, was pretty forgettable. Tall Tall Mountain was okay, but I remember hating that stupid fucking Monkemon. Mario 64 was a great game, but I think it just wasn't my time yet. It didn't grab me, it didn't excite me that much. I'd rather do other things. Maybe if I'd gotten the game or the console in general 2 years later, I would have been able to finish it and appreciate it more. And I did eventually go back to not just finish it, but 100% it on the Wii Virtual Console many years later. It's just wasn't my time to get into gaming. But it was still the first game I ever played, so it holds a special place in my heart. Technically, Glover was the first game I ever played, but I think I played it like once and I was like, damn, this is kind of boring, I'm never playing this again. So, if Mario 64 wasn't good enough for me, then what was? It wasn't Glover. I think an important distinction here is that I did not own Banjo Kazooie. We went to some rental store and my parents let me pick whatever I wanted, and well, I picked this game. Something about the art style on the cartridge just grabbed my attention. There was no box, it was just a cartridge. I went home, loaded it up, and I was instantly hooked. It was so colorful, and just like Mario, the controls were fun and easy to understand. And to top it all off, the main villain was a crocodile. Okay, I know she's a witch now, but as a kid, I thought she was a crocodile, and for some reason, I loved that. I kept telling my dad how I needed to beat the crocodile lady before she hurt Tootie. I think the game just had a charm that was easier for my kid's brain to get hooked on, like the sound effects that the NPCs would use when you talk to them. Banjo's "Gah!" I would randomly make that sound even at school. It lived rent-free in my head. It still does. Gah! Unfortunately, I don't have more to say though. I only had the game for a week. The day came when I had to give the game back. I don't know why we couldn't rent it again. Maybe it had something to do with the policy of the store, or maybe my parents just couldn't afford it anymore. But alas, I had to give it back, and I was devastated. I was throwing tantrums on the floor of our apartment about how my parents hated me and they don't understand me. They don't get the "Gah!" that I have to save Banjo Kazooie from the crocodile lady. Why do they hate me? Why do they loathe me? Did you even want me? I'm embarrassed talking about it now, but anyways, I returned the game, I threw a tantrum, all embarrassed nowadays, and I didn't beat it, and more importantly, I haven't played it since. I know it's on NSO and I do plan on playing it and beating the game one day, but I haven't found the right time. Mario 64 was my first game, but Banjo Kazooie was probably the game that made me want to keep playing games. As a kid, I did not feel compelled to keep playing more and more games after Mario 64. I didn't even beat it. Banjo Kazooie though, I did want to keep playing, and I didn't beat it, but it was mostly just out of my control. It scratched that 5-year-old little monkey brain just enough for me to want to get my next game. And thankfully, I didn't have to wait long. My birthday was coming up. My dad said I can pick out any game I wanted. Surely I got Banjo Kazooie back, right? I didn't like Yoshi's story as much as Banjo Kazooie, but I did like Yoshi the character way more than Banjo. So much so that to this day, Yoshi probably is my favorite Nintendo character of all time. He's just so cute! I think what helped was that this was the first game I could actually finish. It was really easy. I still died a lot, but compared to the other two, way easier. It was cute, full of charm, the storybook aesthetic was adorable, and it gave me a new habit. My mom didn't like the new habit, but I would stick out my tongue whenever we would eat, and I would try to lick my food. You know, typical kid stuff. My mom would get mad at me and tell me to behave and not play with my food. Another example of how they don't understand me and hated me. Yoshi's Story is kind of a weird game. The enemies were weird, liked them more than Mario 64, and to this day I still kind of stand by that. This caterpillar in particular reminded me of the Hungry Caterpillar, which adds to the storybook theming they were going for. The skeleton dragons in the cave level were just cool. I don't remember them ever coming back in any of the other games, and there was even a Hydra you can find in the jar or vase, like if you take a Lakitu up there. I would get a lot of game overs. I might be the reason the dinosaurs went extinct. Researchers will tell you it was an asteroid, but... it was Damphy murdering a bunch of cute little Yoshis. The game was easy enough though, and eventually I did get to complete it and, well, according to the book, find true happiness. I kept playing after beating it too, cause new levels would sometimes make themselves available. I think if you collected these hearts, then more levels would become available like in the next world. And I think there were 24 levels in total, but I definitely didn't beat all the levels. I don't think I unlocked all the levels. But I did play a good amount of them.
Yoshi!
I think as a kid, I didn't really understand why I kept playing Yoshi. I mean, who does? You're 5 years old. You don't particularly think about why things are fun, just that they are. But looking back, I think it just made me feel good. Yoshi has always been a good vibe. And at its absolute worst, it's been a boring vibe, but I don't think it's that often. Yoshi's Story was just a comfy experience, and it kept me coming back and 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 back. I think that's why I still play every new Yoshi game. They might not be for me anymore. They're made for 5-year-old Danphy, not 24-year-old Danphy. Even though I do think Yoshi's Story is significantly harder than the modern games. But I'm okay with that. I don't want Nintendo to make this grand 3D platformer Yoshi game for me. At least not if they don't want to. And I still like the games that come out. I loved Yoshi's Woolly World. Crafted World was okay, not gonna lie. Not my cup of tea. But they're comfy games, and I think for me that's what Yoshi has always been, with a few standouts of course. So I'll keep playing them so that I get that warm, cozy feeling inside. And that new Yoshi game coming out later this year, Yoshi's in the Mysterious Book, it looks like it's just gonna be yet another comfy vibe, and I'm okay with that. I'll keep playing Yoshi games to get that warm, cozy feeling inside. The next game I got was Vigilante 8, and I don't actually have that much to say about it. Not because I didn't like it, I actually played this game a lot. This was my I'm a boy and cars are cool game, but I just didn't play the single player campaign, and most of my time playing it was with my dad. There was a split screen versus mode that I would play with him all the time. Fun was that we didn't even know what we were doing, we just knew we were supposed to kill each other. The cars themselves were pretty hard to control, and it didn't help how janky it felt and looked. But you kinda don't care about that when you're 5 or 6. Car game with gun is pretty simple. You would get power-ups that gave you like missiles and guns to destroy the opponent and leave them to their demise. There wasn't much more that I can remember, but that isn't to say there wasn't more to the game. That's just what my experience was. The multiplayer and playing with my dad. And that honestly made it special enough for me. Super Smash Brothers! Even as a kid, Smash 64 was already a pretty cool crossover game. I knew Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Yoshi, Mario, Luigi, and Donkey Kong. No clue who any of these fuckers were at the time, but it's cool that they were there. Pink Ball with a happy face was a nice guest character, I guess. And it was cute that you can play as a random fox with clothes. Kinda like with Vigilantes though, my fondest memory of this game are playing with my dad. I still remember bugging him and being the most annoying little shit when he got back from work. Even if he was tired, he'd make time to still play with me. I guess he didn't hate me as much as I thought he did. You win this time, Dad. Jury's still out on Mom. I think he would always play as Link. From all of Nintendo's IPs, he's always been drawn to the Zelda series. I don't even think he knows who Link is or what Legend of Zelda was. I didn't. But as I got more and more games in the future, I would see that he actually took an interest to it. He would ask me questions about who Zelda is, what is Ganondorf doing, and honestly I'd just be like, play the game. He never did. Because of Yoshi's story, I would always play as Yoshi, even if he wasn't as cute in Smash 64. And you know what? Considering he was 52 and I was 6, we were pretty evenly matched. I think I would win more, but I low-key think he was letting me win just because he was scared of another Banjo Kazooie tantrum. And unlike with Vigilante 8, I actually did play Classic Mode a lot. The single player was fun, I would try out different characters, and even if I didn't complete it, I enjoyed my time. I think this was my introduction to some of these characters, right? I had no idea who Star Fox was. I had no idea who Link was. I had no idea who Samus was. Who the fuck are you? And with this game, I actually made friends. I had people who were interested in playing this game because they thought it was Melee. It wasn't. But they would still come over, we'd still play. We were 5, we were 6, who cares? We could only do 2 players though. We only had 2 N64 controllers, so we would just turn out the loser or play a 4-player tournament. Sadly, Smash 64 was one of the last games I ever played on my N64. My time with the console was coming to an end due to something else that would take over my life. There was only one more game I ever played on my N64, and that was Pokemon Stadium. My mom just sort of randomly got it for me. She saw it and kinda impulse bought it for me. Guess my mom is kinda cool too, whatever. Pokemon Stadium was cool. I actually loved the game. I loved Pokemon. My dad would get me these cassettes that had 3 random episodes of the anime, and they weren't all from the same season too. One cassette would be the episodes where Ash catches the starters, and then the next cassette had Tracy, and all of a sudden we were in the middle of the sea, sailing on a Lapras, what the fuck? Nevertheless, I loved Pokemon, and that's probably why my mom got it for me. I didn't get to play it much before I got my DS, but I remember choosing my team to resemble Ash's and going through the leagues. I think I only got to Great Ball tier though. It was kinda crazy opening this game by the way and seeing these tiers resemble the ranks in Pokemon Champions. Kinda cool to see. Like I said, I didn't play it too much. I got a DS, Game Boy, and the GameCube pretty close to the time I got Pokemon Stadium, and I didn't really ever touch my N64 again. And eventually I even sold it so I can get a Wii U. Yeah, not my brightest moment. I still regret that decision to this day. But high school Dampy didn't give a damn.
Here comes the aerial attack! Super effective!
My Nintendo 64 era was probably only about 1.5 to 2 years before I moved on to other games. But I still have nostalgia for this console. Not because of how impactful the games were for me or how ahead of their time they were for me, but it symbolized a time in my life where I felt like I was the closest with my dad. I still live with my parents, but there's something about that time when he would play games with me that's really special to me. We didn't really ever play games together like that ever again after that. I got my GameCube and then I started making friends and I would play with them instead of him. I didn't think about it much back then, but sometimes I look at that very fondly. It was special to me that my dad would play Vigilante 8 and Super Smash Bros. With me. Today I can tell he clearly does not like video games, but he still made that time for me, and I don't know, it just makes it special. And that's kind of what the Nintendo 64 means to me. It's kind of my family console. And I sold it away like a greedy piece of shit. I didn't care about it that much back then. I actually, you know what? I lied. I did not sell it when I was in high school. I sold it when I was in middle school. God, I'm so fucking stupid. But like I said, I didn't think about it much back then. And I regret it now. Because that's a lot of memories gone. That's why even a game like Vigilante 8 that I didn't think much of is still kind of cool and special to me. When I was looking it up for this video and I saw the gameplay, I was like, oh shit. This is what nostalgia feels like. And of course, my time with Mario 64, Banjo, and Yoshi were incredible too. Games don't have to be this grand masterpiece to leave an impact on you. Maybe there's a world where even Glover clicked for me, and that's my favorite game of all time. My Nintendo 64 era was incredibly brief, but it was my start into gaming, and I'll never forget that. God, fuck this Bomb-Bomb, man. Fuck this guy!